welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are connecting us from. Welcome and thank you to those who's joining us live and to those who will be watching the recording afterwards. Please let us know by typing into the chat box from which country and which school you're joining us from. My name is Özge Özer, and I'm a pharmacist trained in Turkey, and I am the Educational Partnership Manager at FIP. Let's see some logistics from today. Well, please note that this event is being recorded, and the recording will be publicly made available on our website, fip.org. Please feel free to send your questions through the Q&A box. Please let us know which speaker should answer your question. We will be picking those up throughout today's session. Also, please give your feedback so that we may continue to improve our digital events. This is an opportunity for me to invite you to join our global network at FIP AIM, Academic Institutional Membership. To have more information and become a member, please scan the QR code on your screen. Let's hear what AIM is, Academic Institutional Member is. So AIM members benefit from the expertise of a dynamic group of academic leaders that are working collaboratively to improve pharmacy education around the world. Today's webinar is the work of that collaborative group. So if you scan the QR code here, the same code, and apply for the AIM membership, we will introduce you to what the world of AIM and what we do to advance our profession. And you'll seeing the highlights from AIM. Well, it's not limited with that, but we will have a special session in Brisbane, Australia, where we will have the next FIP Congress. So we are looking forward to seeing academic leaders there joining us at that very special platform for AIM members. And let's see today's program. So after I do the introduction, I will give the floor to our chair, AIM chair, Pierre Moreau. You'll see him in a few minutes. And then he will, tomorrow is the International Day of Education. He will give an introduction speech and introduce you why we are here today. And then we will hear from the presentations from our speakers. And then it's your time. It's the Q&A time. Please keep asking your questions by using the Q&A box and chat box also. And we will be picking those questions throughout today's session. And then some closing remarks from Pierre, our chair, and then some special announcements. Please stay until the very end. A great announcement coming from AIM and the FIP Seal program special for AIM members. So today's learning objectives, I'm sure you all read those learning objectives while you're registering, but let's give a quick look why we're here today and what we'll do. So we're here today to launch the AIM handbook. It's a very special handbook, includes a lot of activity examples from AIM schools that you can implement in your school with your students and with your academic staff. So what are those? So with the handbook and with this webinar, you'll be able to develop some strategies to recruit more and better students into pharmacy schools using traditional and social media. Advocate for the profession, its scope of practice, and its importance in the healthcare system, and reflect on a global integrated approach to foster student and interest and improve admissions. I'm very happy to introduce you our speakers today. Also, please note that these speakers are the authors of the handbook. So a special applause goes to all of them. Thank you very much for joining the AIM working group and writing this handbook and joining today to mention how this handbook and how this webinar will be helpful for our participants. Now, I would be happy to give the floor to Pierre Moreau, the AIM chair. Pierre is a professor at Kuwait University in Kuwait, and he received his pharmacy and PhD degrees from Université de Montréal, and he was appointed at this institution in 1997. He was nominated Dean in 2006 and left Canada in 2014 to be appointed as Dean of the Faculty of Pharmacy at Kuwait University. He's continuing to be a professor there. He's a former Dean now. We are taking too much Pierre's time with AAM work. And he has led a great curriculum transformation at Kuwait University, and he is keeping. He will be doing that in multiple places as well. Pierre, hello. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Özge, and welcome everyone. I'm very happy to be here today with you. It's a very special day. It's been 1 year of a work in progress, and we're happy to finally launch this handbook. So as you can see on the next slide, and as Özge has alluded to, tomorrow is the UNESCO International Day of Education. And last year we did something. We actually had a session on mental wellness for academicians, including how to prevent burnout. So this was also part of the International Day of Education. And this year the topic of UNESCO is to invest in people, prioritize education. And what they say basically is that they are taking forward national commitments and global initiatives and step up public engagement in favor of education as a path to peace, sustainable development, and individual and collective well-being. Of course, we are a part of that as being part of universities and training pharmacists that will also contribute to the well-being of the population by providing care. So as you know, the healthcare system in most countries is under a lot of pressure, but both in terms of staff and also resources, other resources than human resources. And we all know also that the pandemic took a toll on the well-being of our healthcare professionals. They are tired. It was a very tough moment for them. Pharmacists were not immune to that. And we can maybe think that this could discourage some young students to enroll in a healthcare professional career, knowing that they will be frontline whatever happens in terms of health around the world. And so we need to continue to improve pharmacy enrollment to allow pharmacists to participate fully in the healthcare services that are delivered in all communities. And we all know that if there's a shortage of pharmacists, definitely we won't be able to reach that goal of using pharmacists to their full potential. Next slide, please. So basically, the background of our work was to try to, from attracting students to pharmacy, all the way through career development after graduation, was to try to develop an implementation plan for new strategies to support pharmacy schools around the world that may be facing a decline in their enrollment. So our goal is to try to give you tips and tricks and very hands-on experiences and examples to help you improve the number and the quality of applicants that you have in your school. So this is the work we've been doing for the past year. And if I can have the next slide. So basically, this subgroup of FIP AIM members worked, and we decided to publish this handbook that will help improve pharmacy enrollment through, like I said, real life examples and impactful activities. The specific objectives of the handbook were threefold. First, to develop strategies to recruit more and better students, advocate for the profession in its scope of practice and its importance in the healthcare system, and reflect on a global integrated approach to foster student interest and improve admissions. So of course, we're all different. We are in different countries. We have different, let's say, a different context and situation. And you will have to determine what could be the best tools for you, depending on what you know from your own environment. But we try to have a very broad approach to provide several possibilities for you to pick from and to apply in your own backyard, basically. So how did we do that? So basically, we opened up on the next slide, Asgay. We opened up we called upon the FIP AIM members last year to join us in this journey, and 17 answered the call and worked every about 3 weeks. We had a meeting to try to produce this handbook to help other members of FIP AIM to improve their enrollment. So I won't go through all the names, but a lot of them will be presenting today. So you'll see some of their work that they are contributing to the handbook. On the next slide. So how we work, basically, we used a logic model, and it's very simple. Basically, if you look in the bottom, how to construct the model. So we first look at what are the main goals that need to change, the outcomes that need to change to improve enrollment in pharmacy, in schools of pharmacy. Then go to the objectives. So what can be measured to see if we reach that goal, if we're moving towards that goal. Then we move to activities. So what activities or examples of things that we can do to improve the output? And finally, what are the resources that I need to do these activities? So this is how we construct the model, but the way you will see it, or you will read it, is what are the resources I need to do these activities that will improve my outputs, that will later on make sure that I reach my goals. And the impact, of course, the overall impact is to improve enrollment. So this is how the model works. So we brainstormed, if I can have the next slide, we first brainstorm on these goals, or the outcomes, the high level goals that we wanted, and also on the objectives that could be feeding into these goals. And I will show you in the next slide the global structure that it gave. No, please, if you can come back one slide, sorry. So this structure is actually how the handbook is now organized. So it is part of the organization of the handbook, but it comes from these goals and objectives. After that, we discussed examples of activities, examples of initiatives that schools have done to try to help in their achievement of their increase in enrollment in terms of student number and quality. And we then asked some of our group members to write down some of these examples so that they can be shared with all of you. And today we will not share the whole 30 plus examples that we came up with, but we'll share a couple so that you have a sample of what we did and how you can use this handbook to improve the enrollments in your school. Next slide. So basically, you have now on the left the impact. We have three main outcomes, which is increase or maintain enrollment number. The second outcome was improve the recognition of the profession, which we think also leads to improvement in enrollment. And the third one is prepare graduates for multiple work opportunities, which also in the long run would improve the impact on enrollment in pharmacy. And on the right, you have the objectives. So the objective, the measurable or SMART objectives for each of these outcomes. And this is where we will show today roughly one example per objective of these to show you how you can work towards these objectives. And in parentheses, in these boxes, you have the measurement. For instance, to increase the quality of applicants could be a measure of the GPA of the last student accepted would give you an idea of the quality of students you get into your program. So moving on to the next slide is the first outcome, increase or maintain enrollment numbers. So the second column is our objectives. And then after that, you have the initiatives or the activities that are described in the handbook. And we will go through some of them again in detail. Everybody will have about 5 minutes to present their example to you so that you can use that. And of course, they are also part of the handbook. So you can also refer to them in the handbook and make sure you can use them and even contact the school that wrote this so that you can have a link and make sure you can use their examples to the fullest. So on the next slide is the second outcome, improve the recognition of the profession. And we see here that in terms of objectives, there was, we thought that we could try to amplify media attention. Increasing salaries also could help, of course, to recognize the profession fully. Better governmental involvement, collaboration work and research with other disciplines. So again, to show what pharmacy can bring to the table, and community engagement, again, for the same purpose. So all these are objectives that can be achieved and measured. And this is, you'll see again, a couple of examples today of initiatives towards these objectives and towards that goal, the outcome. And the third one is the prepare graduates for multiple work opportunities. And of course, the number is reduced, but some of the initiatives can actually fill in or fit into many objectives and outcomes. So at the end, the number is a bit more reduced because some of the previous ones can also link to that. But we have here postgraduate specialization, dual degrees, and also international recognition of the degree that helps to prepare graduates for multiple work opportunities. So with that being said, we will start now with these examples. So if you do have any question regarding how we worked and what we did, please go ahead and put it in the Q&A box, and we'll try to answer as we go or at the end during the Q&A session. So our first speaker, who will talk about, of course, the first major outcome, which is increase or maintain enrollment number. And he will talk mainly about ways to increase number of applicants, is Dr. Frank Moriarty from the School of Pharmacy in Ireland from the Royal College. So I will not go through all the detail of their bio because I have many people to introduce and I want to give them more time to talk about their initiatives. So Frank, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Pierre. Thanks for the opportunity as well to speak to you this morning or this afternoon or this evening. So on the next slide, I introduce one of the examples that is included under ways to increase enrollment numbers from our own institution, which is RCSI, University of Medicine and Health Sciences. RCSI is a single faculty health sciences focused university. And apologies, I've animations here, so if you want to click, maybe keep clicking until they all come up, and apologies about that. So we have 4 undergraduate programs, medicine, physiotherapy, advanced therapeutic technologies, as well as pharmacy. And the next point is that across these 4 courses, we host a number of different events throughout the year to try and promote them to people who may wish to apply and enroll in these courses. So we target young people leaving school, as well as graduate entrants, so people who've already undertaken an undergraduate degree or mature entry students, as well as pharmacy technicians, specifically for our pharmacy program. And on the next slide, I have details about we traditionally have targeted a mini medicine program for 15 to 16-year-old students in Ireland as a form of work experience. So typically in Ireland, school children around this age have a transition year where they try and develop skills and get a chance to undertake different types of work experience. So the university has traditionally offered, I suppose, a taster program for medicine to try and understand what would work be like for being a doctor. And the next point covers that, I suppose, following on from this, these transition year programs have been expanded to cover other professions and courses. And then the final point is just to say that obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic, pre-COVID, these initiatives would have been in person. So opening our doors and bringing students into the university to try and learn about the day-to-day life of a doctor or a pharmacist, etc. But with COVID, all of this shifted online to try and still deliver a taster for these school students, while also, maintaining social distancing, etc. So we moved our mini pharmacy program, which is the kind of work experience program for these students online with COVID. And then on the next slide, I have some an example of what the program looked like for last year. So this is organised as a half-day online event now since COVID. We did discuss moving it back in person actually for this year, but we decided to actually keep it as an online event because, we've been reaching kind of about 3,000 students registering and logging in for the event last year, which is far more than we'd be able to accommodate in person. So we've actually decided to keep that online element so that we can reach a wider audience. The next point then just goes through, I suppose, the format that we have a general introduction to the pharmacy course and what a typical pharmacy career is like, if there is a typical day in the life of a pharmacist. And then the next point, as you can see here, is we have a number of different speakers from different types of pharmacist roles. So we have community or retail pharmacy represented, hospital pharmacy, industry pharmacy, as well as emerging pharmacist roles. So things like regulatory affairs, pharmacovigilance, pharmacoeconomic assessment. And we also have a pharmacy student speaking about their experience of the course. And for those pharmacists, we asked them to speak for about 5 to 10 minutes, give an impression of what interested them in their role initially, and what a typical day looks like, and what they enjoy most about their role. So very much giving a taster for people who may not be familiar with the role of pharmacists to those school students, as mentioned. And then on the next slide, just to go through some of the logistics, I suppose, if you were thinking about doing this for your own school or university, if delivering it online, an online platform, in order to operate the event and support to run the event on the day, be that from within your school or faculty, or more widely if you have IT support. The next point, obviously, is to try and get speakers. So reaching out to contacts from faculty members, maybe alumni from your pharmacy program to come back and speak about what their current role is. The next point is promotional materials. So being able to develop posters, leaflets, email blasts that can go out to try and promote the event. The next point is around trying to invite schools. So having a list of schools that you might be able to tap into, mailing list, or even circulating amongst your staff members within the school or amongst other staff within the university who might be able to share with, family members, friends who might have children around the age where they might be thinking about career choices. And the last point is to think about, collaborating with other schools, departments, if you want to team up with physiotherapy and medicine and try and operate this as a whole day event to give a taster for the different careers that might be available. So on the last slide is just to say thank you very much for your attention, and very much welcome any questions in the chat, or I can answer them at the end. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for your input and providing this excellent example of what can be done to stimulate our future students to come into the School of Pharmacy. So we move now to the next example, still in the outcome of increasing or maintaining enrollment number. And Hanan Refat, who's the Dean at Future University in Egypt, will talk to us about the ways to increase the quality of applicants. based on her experience and what they did over there. So Hanan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pierre, for the introduction, and thank you for leading our group through this productive work. After exploring with Frank how to increase enrollment numbers, it is really essential to focus on some ways to increase the quality of applicants or students. This will not only impact indirectly the enrollment number, because the institute that will attract the best caliber of students will be appealing to other students. So this is going to promote for the institution. We can utilize both structured on-site and virtual interviews to help the admission committee to complete review and to collect some information of the candidates, including their personal characteristics. This can be done through several activities where touch points are provided with faculty members, staff, and students, maybe during faculty tours or visits. Some presentation from faculty members is encouraged to focus on their active research and clinical practice. Whenever we can find a possibility to gather information about a good caliber of student or a better caliber of student, we should, take it. Next slide, please, Oski. So, next slide, please. So afterwards, the Faculty of Pharmacy can offer diverse types of scholarship that will support the enrollment. This can vary from the entrance scholarship for the first year students, which maybe include full or partial tuition support, sibling scholarship, sports scholarship, or funding for senior students as funds for graduation project materials or courses. Also, scholarship based on performance, such as performance-based incentives or awards like top-ranked students per level or per course can also be offered. Students with distinguished community involvement can be also provided funding items other than tuition, something like rent, transportation, or continuing education courses. What we will need here, we need to have a good community partners to support and encourage this scholarship package. Next slide, please. Once we have this diverse types of scholarship, we need to market for it. So the scholarship should be promoted during all school activities as recruitment, school visits, education fairs. We should always remind our students with the scholarship that they may apply for during their study. The school should make the incentive process easy and engaging, and to ensure, the school should ensure that the application process, including the deadline, is clearly identified. And most importantly, using the social media to alert students about new awards, incentives, and upcoming deadlines. We will need a good promotion and marketing sector, and we will need our staff, whether senior or junior, to use their own social media accounts for this promotion. Next slide, please. We should also ensure an equitable access to funding opportunities. For example, when offering jobs on campus, we should allow all students to apply for them, not just those students that have financial need. We should make all scholarship opportunities available to all students. Another interesting point is to interview the students about which type of financial support they would prefer, or which type of incentives would be impressive for them. Sometimes, it's always not sometimes, the students get us great ideas about the scholarship. And it is very important also to make special scholarship opportunities available for international students, and again, use the social media to announce them. At last, I thank you all very much for your attendance, and thank you.
Thank you, Hanan, for these very good examples of how to improve the quality of students. So moving forward to our next presenter, Rajani Shakia. She's associate professor at the Department of Pharmacy, Kathmandu University in Nepal. And she will talk about making pharmacy, how to improve or how to make sure pharmacy becomes the first choice for students applying by working on the quality of the curriculum. So Rajani, it's up to you.
Thank you, Pierre, for the introduction and also for this opportunity. It's an honor to be part of this team. Please allow me to begin with a short introduction about my institution. Kathmandu University is an autonomous, not-for-profit, self-funding public institution established in 1991. The university operates through 7 schools. We started BPharm program back in 1994. Under the School of Science. Besides this, we have MPharm, PharmD post-baccalaureate and PhD programs. We are running MPharm in 4 specializations: pharmaceutical care, industrial pharmacy, pharmacognosy and phytochemistry, and pharmaceutical analysis. Next slide, please. Our curricula are continuously upgraded since the beginning so as to incorporate new knowledge to prepare students for a wide variety of existing and future roles of pharmacists in pharmaceutical industries and several other practice settings, government organizations, etc. Due to countries focus mainly on manufacturing pharmaceuticals and increasing number of pharmaceutical companies, most of our graduate and postgraduate students joined pharmaceutical industries. In order to prepare workforce for this sector, our previous BPharm curriculum was also focused a bit more towards industrial pharmacy. However, due to the last few decades of global shift of pharmacy profession from product to patient care, Nepalese pharmacy profession is in the phase of transition. The number of pharmacists joining practice settings, though small, is increasing gradually. This is also due to government's policy of pharmacist presence made compulsory in the community pharmacies, and also maybe due to allocating number of pharmacists according to the hospital size. To tackle this new challenge, we felt a need to initiate academic exercise aimed at revamping and restructuring our curriculum. We started with BPharm curriculum, and then we introduced our modified undergraduate curriculum in 2019 in order to provide stronger educational foundation that fosters students' engagement equally in practice settings. Next slide, please. We took into account the needs and future trends in profession and education while updating our curriculum. After assessing the need, we had a series of departmental meetings and finally a workshop with the stakeholders. This workshop provided an excellent platform for interaction and dialogue between participants from all settings related to pharmacy education and professional pharmacy practice. Useful information for bringing about necessary changes in pharmacy education were gathered, which guided us in upgradation of our BPharm curriculum. The modified curriculum was then further discussed in pharmacy subject committee meeting, followed by faculty board meeting of the university, and finally was endorsed by the academic council for implementation. Next slide, please. This slide shows the changes we made in our undergraduate curriculum. Our previous curriculum had relatively less emphasis on pharmacy practice related courses. Since, as I mentioned earlier, pharmacy profession in this country is focused mostly toward pharmaceutical industries. Also, our BPharm curriculum used to have greater weightage on basic science courses like physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, etc. In 2019 curriculum, we tried to balance courses relating to all major areas of pharmacy profession. Weightage of core professional practice-oriented courses were increased. In the curriculum, courses like pharmacology, pharmacy practice, pharmacotherapeutics are now being taught more elaborately. Clinical, hospital, and social pharmacy courses are taught that support students' learning on patients and their use of medicines. We have brought down the weightage of basic science courses. We decreased management-related courses. Engineering projects, drawings, which were there in previous curriculum, were also removed. We increased weightage for project work and field visits of students for their self-learning instead. Also, after balancing the credit hours of basic science courses, we got some space to increase a little more weightage on the core professional courses of pharmaceutical sciences. Pharmaceutical chemistry, pharmaceutical technology, analysis, and are there in the curriculum to teach the processes related to development, production, and analysis of pharmaceutical products. Quality assurance and pharmaceutical regulatory sciences courses are also included as part of curriculum. These provide knowledge and skill to students to ensure quality and safety of medicines and also appropriate professional practice. Most of the subjects we have, they have laboratory components attached to enhance students' scientific skills and also their hands-on experience. Next slide, please. We believe that quality of pharmacy education imparted by the universities has everlasting impact on quality of healthcare offered to the society. According to the FIP, only quality education will produce a competent pharmacy workforce for diverse settings. Curriculum is considered as a blueprint of an educational program. Outdated curriculums may cause a major setback for the coming generation of pharmacists. Pharmacy education is in the state of transition, as I mentioned, in this part of the world. To be in pace with this transition, adequate restructuring of pharmacy academia was required. So we improved our BPharm curriculum that makes better alignment between pharmacy education, professional practice, and societal needs. It's a little bit early to say what is the impact of curricular improvement on our admission, since it was introduced in 2019 only. Also, since 2020, government body, the Medical Education Commission, started national common entrance examination for admission in all the academic institutions having health professional courses in this country. But even after this, we can see huge interest of students in getting admission in this university for the undergraduate and graduate programs of pharmacy, which is quite encouraging. We are trying our best to make students from our academic programs meet the competency standards for entry into the profession to join the pharmacy workforce after their graduation. And I can say that we have been successful to this to a large extent. With this, I would like to finish my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajani. This is not a small task to change a whole curriculum, but and I have to commend your efforts to do a needs assessment and to make sure that you were in line with your environment. This is what is absolutely needed. And definitely, if you're in line with the needs, there will be students wanting to come and fulfill those needs for the society. So congratulations, it's a big task and it's a beautiful example of what can be done. So now we'll be moving, we're still in the first outcome, which is increase or maintain enrollment number. And one of the other aspects that we thought could also be important to keep our student numbers there is to have a better representation of all student populations. This is what Brian Hemstreet from the University of Colorado Skaggs School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, will be talking about. So welcome, Brian.
Great. Thank you, Pierre. Greetings, everyone, from a very cold and snowy Colorado this morning. It's great to see you all here. I appreciate the opportunity to participate, and it's excellent to see so many colleagues and familiar names from around the world. So I'm going to focus on some of the initiatives we've done at Colorado in regards to marketing of rural practice as a way to increase diversity in our student population, and subsequently then also help provide healthcare to the underrepresented and more diverse areas of our state. Ozga, you can go ahead and click one more. I think I have a picture on there. Like many of our states in the United States, Colorado has several large metropolitan areas, as many of you have visited, in the center of the state, but the vast majority of the state is considered very, very rural. So we've tried to leverage this by hitting a few major points with our prospective students about how they can participate in healthcare delivery in the underrepresented portions of our state. As you all know, healthcare needs in rural areas are increasing. So as the population grows in the metropolitan area, we are seeing fewer healthcare professionals in the rural parts of the state. This makes an excellent opportunity for pharmacists, who are often one of the most accessible healthcare professionals in those rural areas of the state. So we first and foremost like to highlight with our students the fact that they will be able to provide care to the populations in these underrepresented portions of the states. Also, we've also partnered with various other entities within the state to help you highlight some unique practice opportunities that may be in rural areas that you may not necessarily see as much in the metropolitan areas. As many of you know, independent pharmacy practice is growing again as many of our graduates like to move to rural areas and open their own pharmacies. Community pharmacy practice is expanding as well. In Colorado, like many of our states in the USA, we have collaborative practice agreements, which allow our pharmacists to do prescribing and other higher level activities. And we also have many of our pharmacy partners and corporations incorporating primary care clinics into the pharmacies as well. Veterinary pharmacy is growing as well, as many of you know, as an emerging area too. We have a partnership with Colorado State University to send students to their veterinary pharmacy rotation as a fourth-year student. And then, as many of you know, many schools of pharmacy are opening up postgraduate training opportunities in veterinary practice as well. So the expanded scope of practice, and then also the lifestyle, reduced cost of living in these rural areas is important too. As you know, particularly in the United States, the cost of living in certain metropolitan areas, particularly our Denver area, is increasing. So it's very attractive for students who graduate, many of whom have many loans as well, to move to an area of the state where housing is less expensive and overall cost of living is less expensive as well. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I have some more pictures on there too, Ozga, if you want to just go ahead and click through. So I would say that the approach we've taken is really to market this extensively as an opportunity in healthcare. And by doing so, we've been able to attract students who more often than not would consider rural practice as an opportunity. And so we've also done a lot of recruitment in the rural areas as well by leveraging our alumni who have moved to those areas too. So these are just some examples. As you can see on our website here, we have an entire section of our website just devoted to rural Colorado practice. And you can see some highlights of some alumni and current students who have spent time in these areas. Some of these individuals have graduated and chosen to move to the rural areas and have opened independent pharmacies there. And then we market that as they're doing high level practice in these rural areas. And then we also market the lifestyle in Colorado in the rural areas as well, which allow them to do a lot more different types of activities and have a little bit slower pace of lifestyle than they may in the big metropolitan areas, often which is good for folks that maybe want to start a family as well. You can see the picture in the middle. We also market our experiential programming in that students who attend rural practice sites, we also get information from them on their experience there as well. I will say that one of the things we have been able to do is partner with our Colorado Area Health Education Center. All of our students in the fourth year of their program are required to do a rural experience, 6-week experience. And we've been fortunate to be able to partner with the Colorado AHEC Association to provide housing for those students in the rural areas. for their 6-week experience to help defer costs. So that's another area of partnership that I would encourage you to look for if you're looking at sending students to rural areas to remove barriers such as high levels of costs. And then I think I have one more picture on there, Azga, if you want to click through one. So yeah, so you can see here that we also highlight our experiential program. And lastly, we've been able to partner with some institutions who want students to go back to rural practice after graduating, and therefore we have rural specific scholarships for those individuals that they can obtain while they're in the program. Should they then go back to rural Colorado to practice, they will get the scholarship funding for that as well. And so these are just some areas of marketing of rural practice and leveraging our alumni base in those areas that many of your countries as well have very, very rural areas. If you have your graduates working in those areas, I would encourage you to establish some great partnerships with them. And it's often a good way to highlight what they're doing. And subsequently, what we've seen is then those become clinical sites, which recruit more students into the program by virtue of having more exposure to higher level pharmacy practice and our alumni in those rural areas as well. So I'm happy to answer more questions in the chat about kind of what we're doing in the rural practice area. As you can see, we have a lot on our website as well, and I'm always happy to follow up via email too. So thank you again for the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Brian. I think it's really amazing what you've done there. We will now move from rural to international. And Marlon Prince, who's Director of Admission at Howard University College of Pharmacy, will talk about fostering international partnerships, because this can also stimulate students to join, not only going to the rural area, but some want to have an international exposure. And this is a great thing to do. So Marlon, the floor is yours.
Yes. I bring you greetings from Washington, D.C., Howard University College of Pharmacy, and I'm here to talk to you today about fostering international rotations and experiences. One of the first things you want to do when you're fostering international rotations is find a willing partner or a site partner. And some of the ways you can do that is at your different seminars, or use the background of some of your faculty, some of the schools they came from, and the contacts they have made in the past, and talk to those people. That's some of the ways you can get those relationships started and kind of have a handshake with those people to start that partnership. The next thing you want to do, you want to find out the site's learning environment. After you find the partner, find out what their learning environment is and find out if it matches with the students' learning environment, find out if it matches with the goals of the colleges. And it's probably a good idea, just to stay on track with those learning environments, is to have something up showing this information at the site, so both people can stay in line the whole time. One of the things you want to do is determine the learning format. And right now we're doing a lot of virtual things. One term is it going to be virtual? Is it going to be in person? Is it going to be interpersonal? You want to get that out of the way in the beginning to keep everyone, again, on track with the learning environment for the schools and for the site. And as far as, hold on. As far as affiliation agreements and memorandum, you want to have an understanding with those people, and both parties have to be aware of those understandings and responsibilities and stay on track with those things as well. One of the most important things to find out is what the visa process is, what they have to do to get their visa, to stay on track with their visa. Also, you want to find out about housing. You want to find out about rotation costs, insurance, and health coverage. All of that is very important when you're fostering international programs. One of the things we've done since fostering international programs is we have become very high ranked among College of Pharmacies in regards to international rotations. And we actually have rotations in every continent in the world except for Antarctica. And we're actually working on having a rotation in Antarctica. And this is thanks in part to Dr. Torian Tafade, who used to be our dean. She's at another school now, we miss her, but it is thanks in part to her efforts. and we're just following up and keeping on track with those efforts. If you're able to look at the document that we have, there's a link that talks more about fostering international rotations. And I am here to answer any questions. I can answer today, or I can email you, but that's all I have for today.
Thanks, Marlon. Very nice, and very nice to include all these practical tips and tricks as well, because it's not it's nice to have the idea, but to implement it, sometimes the devil's in the details. So thank you so much, Marlon, for doing that. All right, so we'll move to the next example, but we're shifting now from the first outcome to the second one, which is to improve the recognition of the profession. And Lilian Azopardi, which is FIP AIM chair-elect and also head of the Department of Pharmacy at Malta University. And she will talk about amplifying media attention as part of this objective of improving the recognition of the profession. So Lilian.
Thank you, Pierre, for the introduction, and greetings from Malta. And I'd like to share our experience of how we identified some examples that we shared in the media. And in the next slide, I can see that we have moved into this exercise by adopting a three-pillar approach. First, deciding on which area to focus on, because when going out to the media, it's very important to have a clear message and not too confusing ideas, the platforms that are going to be used, and the outreach. To put you into perspective, at the University of Malta, in our pharmacy school, we have two programs, one which is directed to pharmacy studies, and the other one which is directed to pharmaceutical technology graduates, both of which are pharma graduates that are required in great demand for our developing pharmaceutical services and industry. And within the portfolio, we also offer specialization masters and doctorate programs. So one of the first important steps that we had to take when considering the media was what area of focus are we going to share with our audience, and how to get that message out. And in the next slide, I can share with you an infographic that was developed to attract young students, their families, because one also needs to consider that at this stage, there's also a lot of influence from families and friends, and therefore the message has to go through the different strata. And in this message, the focus was highlighting the basis of science and research as an aspect of pharmaceutical studies, whilst focusing mostly on the clinical contribution for the pharmacy profession with interprofessional engagement. And the reason why we selected this focus was because when considering pharmacy, attracting graduates into pharmacy studies, we did find out that the pharmacist was regarded in high regard from the consumer perspective and healthcare professional perspective, but with regards to consumers and graduates and students coming into university, they mostly saw the pharmacist in a community pharmacy being practically involved in product-oriented profession. So we wanted to highlight through the media amplification that in the patient services, there is this clinical contribution that is being taken up by the pharmacist. So in terms of the platforms used, which are represented in the next slide, we can see that we did use different platforms. Social media, very popular with the young capture area, that group that we wanted to capture, printed media, as well as TV and live streaming programs. where we were sharing results from research, for example, research studies carried out by our doctorate students in pharmacy, showing the impact of community pharmacists in blood pressure monitoring, in managing medicines, in testing for vitamin D. And these were shared through these different media to emphasize what the pharmacist can be doing as a service during his or her studies and from a research perspective. And finally, in the last slide, I share with you also that what we were also sharing on the media were also the results or the activities that our faculty, together with the student representatives and the student body, we were having outreach campaigns specifically providing clinical contributions so as to sensitize society about this clinical contribution of pharmacists during the patient management. So here we have two photos of students and staff providing blood pressure monitoring services in a local community center, and the other big group was actually an activity that we held last September during World Pharmacist Day in the hospital, in the acute hospital foyer, where our students and the faculty were providing patient information and patient management with regards to handling their medications. So this was a snapshot of how we amplified the clinical contribution of pharmacists in the media as a means to attract young people into pharmacy, capturing on their interest in being part of the healthcare team from a clinical perspective. And I'd like to thank the whole team. It was a pleasure to work with the team and to be part of this reflective exercise. And now I'd like to hand back the floor back to Pierre, who has worked specifically beyond driving the team and keeping us on track. He also contributed in this section with increasing government involvement, and I'd like to invite him to share the reflections on this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilian. Thank you. So we're continuing our examples in this area of trying to improve the visibility of the profession. And what I described in the handbook is ways to increase government involvement. I know there were some questions in the Q&A about that, so I think it does ring a bell for many people. So on the next slide, I will just explain how we did that in Kuwait. So from 2014 to now, 8 years. To be honest with you, when I came to Kuwait in 2014, the profession was not very attractive. So pharmacists were mainly seen as medication sellers, and the pharmacists working in the hospitals were not really participating in any clinical activity besides dispensing medicines. So from the beginning, not knowing the culture and not knowing how things work here in Kuwait, we tried different approaches to address the issue. But the one that was successful, I'm going to share with you, is in 2019, so 1 year before the beginning of the pandemic, we held an international conference. And because we had these international people coming to Kuwait, we decided to take this opportunity to bring on the government, so the Ministry of Health, and have a special workshop on the topic of the scope of pharmacy practice in the country, and developing a kind of a white paper from this. So it was not just a workshop to, just to talk about it, but at least to set a series of recommendations that would align three main pillars. So like Lilian, we also worked on 3 pillars, but they're different. So the first one was legislation and regulation that needs to be there for pharmacists to practice fully. The second pillar was education, initial education, and also continuous professional development. And the last one was professional practice. So if you can bring the next slide. So what we did is that we organized these 3 pillars around a series of enablers. And this was taken from a paper by my colleagues from Canada that was published in 2018, where they had identified 9 things that start with a P that can be used to advance the pharmacy practice. So we had 26 participants during these workshops that work in different subgroups, some around education, some around regulation, some around practice, but always talking about these 9 Ps. And I invite you to read this paper if you are struggling also with the perception of what pharmacists can do in your country. It's a nice place to start because these are things that can move the needle. So we drafted 15 recommendations, 6 in education, 5 in practice, 4 in regulation. And also we had 4 global enablers that were kind of transversal, like communication, change management, a safety culture, and a lifelong learning culture as well, that would be part of the recommendations to the government. And on the next slide, to our surprise and as well to our pleasure, the government decided after this workshop and the white paper decided to appoint a full-time pharmacist that was just simply amazing to lead a national steering committee. And we created 3 subcommittees, one on education, one on legislation and regulation, and one on professional practice. And to show the kind of intimacy of our school with the government, the education subcommittee was led by somebody from the College of Pharmacy. The legislation and regulation was led by somebody from the Ministry of Health, and also the professional practice subcommittee was led by somebody else from the College of Pharmacy. So very strong relationship evolved from this initiative at the beginning. And the recommendations that we made after the workshop during the conference were the baseline for the work that was done on these 3 different subcommittees. And they were meeting, the steering committee was bringing these 3 committees together and meeting regularly and making sure that things were evolving in a synchronized fashion and not all separately. I think this was also key to the success of the work, is that we didn't focus only on one aspect like maybe we did at the beginning, but we focus on all these 3 pillars. Last year, a pharmacy practice model was approved by the Ministry of Health. And now our students can see what pharmacists can do. And this is all recognized now by the government. And it showed on the next slide. And our new pharmacy practice model, if I can have the next slide, please. Yes, show the services that can be provided at the operational level, clinical services and support services. And we also have advanced services that will be provided mainly by our PharmD graduates with advanced training. So this is a link between education, practice, and regulations to make sure that this now is coming to life. So we're very proud about this very strong collaboration between the Ministry of Health and the College of Pharmacy over the last couple of years. That's the example I wanted to share. So now, if we have the next slide, we'll move to Wendy Cox, who will be talking about supporting collaborative work and research, again, as an example of trying to promote pharmacy as a active and dynamic profession and a, I would say, complementary approach to a lot of the other professions in the healthcare system and also in research as well. So Wendy, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, and greetings from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Next slide, please. I'm sharing an example of collaborative work and research from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Eshelman School of Pharmacy, specifically around interprofessional case discussions. This example can be used with any health professions or multiple health profession students and is an intentional integration of interprofessional learning and collaboration. The purpose of this program is for students to learn about and from another profession where they develop an appreciation for the other health profession's expertise. Ideally, when students are trained in this manner, the appreciation will result in more interprofessional care. Second-year pharmacy students are placed into interprofessional teams with dental students to form a 5 to 6 member team. And our dental school at UNC is right across the street along with the medical school and nursing school. So it makes these types of interactions relatively easy, but you can also do them virtually, and that has worked well as well for us. A patient case addressing dental care and pharmaceutical care is discussed. And an example of this would be anticoagulation management around a dental extraction. So as the case is discussed, students teach the other health profession students how their profession would approach the case. The dental students will talk about how teeth are extracted and what strategies or products they use to control bleeding. And the pharmacy students talk about the importance of maintaining appropriate anticoagulation in certain diseases and the risk and benefits of stopping anticoagulation for a short time. Discussions are facilitated by pharmacy or dental faculty and usually last about an hour to an hour and a half. As a deliverable, students provide written recommendations or a case write-up on which they are graded. They also lead an oral presentation to the facilitator on how to address the patient case, including what they learned from the other profession. This exercise is always highly rated by our pharmacy students on course evaluations, and the faculty facilitators enjoy participating in these sessions as well. Moving to the next slide. This exercise does not require any monetary resources, but does require faculty time and significant planning resources. Faculty are needed to develop the case, although the case can be reused from year to year with minor changes, making it easier after that initial case is developed. Faculty are needed to facilitate the sessions. Typically, faculty facilitate 2 teams of 5 to 6 students, and the faculty rotate between the groups, and that seems to work well. Time is needed to train the facilitators by the course director. And again, the heaviest lift with this is the first year it is offered. If you have faculty who continue to serve in the role as facilitators, they will only need a refresher each year, and that makes it easier. Often the most challenging aspect is finding and scheduling a common meeting time between the 2 health professions programs, between their 2 curricula, and locations between the 2 groups. And this takes resources, mainly time, and staff resources to schedule this. In closing, this exercise is highly valued by students and by our faculty, and it is hoped that through this process, students will develop an appreciation for the other health professions' expertise, which ideally will be carried forward when they are a practitioner, resulting in more interprofessional care. Thank you, and I am happy to answer any questions in the chat.
Thank you, Wendy, for your excellent example. Of course, this brings pharmacy closer to other professions so that they are better recognized. And keeping on with the recognition of the profession, our last example in this outcome is from Gia Ikoy, for assistant professor at the University of San Carlos in the Philippines, who will be talking about stimulating community engagement as a way of getting pharmacists and to be seen so that future students can see what they can do and join our colleges as well. So Gia, it's up to you. Are you with us? We can't hear you right now.
How about now?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Apologies for that. So thank you very much, Pierre. And so I would like to begin by giving a brief background of our project. On to the next slide. Oscar, may I proceed to the next slide already?
Can you see the slide, Gia? It's already there.
All right, thank you very much. So to give you an overview, so our university and especially our department has aimed to cater to the unique needs of our community. For example, by conducting medical missions for partner communities in response to natural disasters and other issues in the Philippines. Now, for this community extension project in particular, so we entitled this the Health Hub Project. We aimed for sustained and expertise-based engagement to improve community health. So this approach to community development must be needs-based, and we evaluate the needs and priorities of the community. And we coordinate the support needed by this community. So the sustained engagement offers us avenues for which future partnerships and activities can stem from. For example, youth from the partner communities can enjoy scholarships as well. So we work together with our alumni, hospital partner, and an NGO, JPIC DIDC, which creates socialized low-cost housing projects for people struggling with homelessness in our region. And we worked with one community in particular. So to tell you more about it, I would like to proceed to the next slide. So for this project, the chosen partner community, we worked with the faculty and alumni pharmacists, medical doctors, nurses, and student practitioners, and provided care packages for 236 households and conducted vital health education programs. We performed patient profiling and monitoring, as well as providing maintenance medications for a year for 60 hypertensive and diabetic patients. Now, we continue to work with this community. Moving forward to the learnings, onto the next slide, we take a cue from our NGO partner, which promotes empowering communities to respond to their basic human needs, for example, by helping them organize themselves into cooperatives or associations. So the community leaders assisted us in logistical concerns and communications to the target patient. So we are not just helping a community, but partnering with them. So via our assessments, community extension was a highlight of the program for exiting students, and this can be easily integrated at various year levels. It also assists us in expanding our professional recognition in our community as we, as Philippine pharmacists, expand our professional roles to more clinical orientation and immunization activities. Next, the Health Hub, by definition, is a collective effort of various healthcare professions to serve the needs of a community. So we run virtual versions of Health Hub activities as well via virtual clinics. And for the pandemic, we also coordinating guesting with an existing local radio show program together with other healthcare professionals. So we've done this 3 times already within the pandemic, and so far we've had a great reach for that. And finally, I just wish to close my sharing with our next slide and some considerations for resources. So first, we really value the coordination with our NGO partner and the community. And needs assessment is so important, and we conducted ocular inspections, community conversations, and review data about our community before partnering further with them. And certainly this activity and all other kinds of engaging enrichments would not be possible without partnerships. So thank you very much for sharing, and I'd be very happy to further engage with you.
Thank you, Gia. That's a beautiful example of community engagement. And again, putting the pharmacist front row center and making sure that people recognize its role that goes beyond, community pharmacy and hospital pharmacy, just to bring it out to the communities. Thank you so much. So now our last speaker on the next slide, Maud Matjuso, is a Director of Quality, International Medical University of Malaysia, will talk a bit longer, but he will deal mainly with the third outcome, which is to prepare graduates for multiple work opportunities. So we'll tackle a couple of examples of what can be done, initiatives that can be perform to prepare graduates, and the broader the possibilities for graduates to have, I guess the better that, you know, the attraction to the schools of pharmacy, because they know they can do many things afterwards. So Mo, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pierre. I hope I am audible. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. First of all, I appreciate FIP AIM for the opportunity to be part of this working group and engage with many wonderful colleagues worldwide. So next slide. So in this part 3 outcome, we shall see a few more examples or activities in preparing graduates for multiple work opportunities as suggestion towards the goal of increasing enrollment in higher education to strengthen and improve the pharmacy profession. So there are 3 activities suggested here: 4.1, postgraduate specialization; 4.2, dual degrees; and 4.3, international recognition of pharmacy degree. So under 4.1, postgraduate specialization, there are 3 examples available in the handbook. 4.1.1, research preparatory programs; 4.1.2, promotion of postgraduate education; and 4.1.3, postgraduate clinical pharmacy. However, in this webinar, I will be sharing an example of 4.1.2, promotion of postgraduate education, and followed by 4.2, dual degrees, and 4.3, international recognition of pharmacy degree. So we move to the next slide, which under 4.1, postgraduate specialization, promotion of postgraduate education. We recognize that a postgraduate degree in pharmacy practice or clinical healthcare sector.
Most.
Yeah.
Your voice comes and goes. Would you mind switching off your camera, please?
All right, I'll do that.
Thank
okay,
you.
hope things are better.
Much better.
Okay, so we propose advanced experiential learning for on-site attachment during postgraduate program that shall give pharmacists the clinical knowledge and skill set to make appropriate decisions on drug therapy regimes and how to best assess patients with real-world experience. And this will give a better understanding and increase the interest of the pharmacist's role. So we move to the next slide. Okay, giving an example of the IMU, International Medical University Master in Pharmacy Practice program. This program offers an advanced professional practice for early career pharmacists to enhance competency for practitioners in their respective professions. The program will develop newly graduated bachelor level pharmacists to enhance their knowledge and skills in basically 4 streams, which they can choose, which are clinical pharmacy, pharmacy management, social and administrative pharmacy, and clinical research. So the program's ethos and culture are designed to foster self-reliance and an adult approach to learning in support of continuing professional development. So move to the next slide, please. And with this program, we aim to promote pharmacists with advanced therapeutic knowledge, pharmaceutical skills, communication, critical thinking, and problem-solving abilities, and disease prevention and therapeutic management skills are essential to uplift the quality of health, the care delivery, prevention of illness, improvement of quality of life of patients, and ultimately to serve better in the healthcare team for the improvement of patient health outcomes. Okay, now we move to the next slide. So as for the structure of this program, it is delivered in a mixed mode where it consists of thought modules and also research projects. All content is delivered through a blended mode, partly face-to-face and partly virtual online, and face-to-face classes are delivered at weekends. This is to accommodate working pharmacists. And this flexible opportunity also allows the working pharmacists to take up this program part-time to achieve their academic ambitions without compromising their professional duty. So based on their field of interest or expertise and working area, they can choose any streams that are offered in this MPP program to achieve their dream career practices. Right now, we move to the next. So which is in next 4.2, with regard to the dual degree in preparing graduates for multiple work opportunities, we suggest members this dual degree, which can be a means to attract students with interest not restricted to conventional pharmacist careers. So we suggest members explore the strength of your institutions in other disciplines and do the bridging with pharmacy. So as we can see in the next slide, so some relevant examples are like PharmD or pharmacy with MDA, or PharmD or pharmacy with digital health, or PharmD or pharmacy with manufacturing, engineering, etc. So the bridging or dual degrees can be designed after students almost complete their first degree in pharmacy or in the PharmD, and when they almost identify their career of interest in the future, they can choose which areas for bridging. So those with for example, interest in business, they can do the MBA. Those with an interest in digital health, so they can do digital health and etc. So now we move to the last example. In the 4.3, with regard to the international recognition of pharmacy degree in preparing graduates for multiple work opportunities, where in this context is the graduates can practicing locally or abroad, other than in their country. So giving an example of the International Medical University Credit Transfer Track Program, a credit transfers is defined as credit obtained in the same programs or discipline from one institution can be transferred to the same program in another institution and even in another country. So this allows students to continue a program in a second institution without having to repeat courses or modules taken earlier in the first institution. Next slide. Sorry, just remain. Can you move back to the previous slide? My apologies. So students who join, for example, 4-year BPharm, Bachelor of Pharmacy program in IMU, they have option either continue to complete the International Medical University BPharm program, or transfer the earlier obtained credits to further the next studies in, for example, our partner universities. One is in the University of Tasmania, Australia, or the University of Otago in New Zealand. So now we move to the next slide. So through this arrangement, the credit transfer students from International Medical University will be required to complete the first 2 years of their studies at International Medical University in Malaysia before they transfer to, for example, in this case, University of Tasmania. And after studying for another 2 years at University of Tasmania, students will be awarded a pharmacy degree by the University of Tasmania. And with this option, the graduate can practice or obtain a professional license in both Malaysia and Australia, or
Maud, can you hear me? Pierre, I think we lost Maud. Oh, okay, perfect. You said Australia, and this was the end of that slide, I believe. Australia or New Zealand, correct? Have you said anything afterwards?
My apologies again. So for the last slide, next slide, please. So for the last slide, what are the benefits and advantages of this arrangement? It offers vast benefits to pharmacy students by giving them an option in an affordable way to gain access to Australian and New Zealand education and obtain an overseas degree. It also allows us to experience the learning environments of two leading universities in Malaysia, Australia, and also New Zealand. And for IMU, it is continuously looking for new university collaboration as part of its ongoing mission to train and promote excellence in the healthcare industry globally. And that's the end of my presentation. My apologies for the hiccup, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Maud, for these excellent examples. Again, so important that we expand the horizons of our graduates to make sure that they embrace the career and they can tailor it to what they would like to do in the end. So this is very, so this is a snippet of what is contained in the handbook. We, I think, answered most of the questions as we went, and the time is flying by. So I think, you know, part of the questions were, will this handbook be available? So it will be available for FIP AIM members. So it's a member benefit. Of course, today was open to more people. But this is the thing that FIP AIM is doing. So one of the benefits is to be able to work on these things with amazing people from around the world. And I was privileged to work with a great team. And the other benefit is that we will share this handbook with our members so that they can implement some of these initiatives within their schools. In my, you know, it's the first time we do such a work at FIP AIM. When I took the leadership of FIP AIM, we just got into the pandemic roughly, so everything was a bit sketchy. But I think we fell back on our feet, and we kind of decided to, in addition to our regular yearly meeting, we decided to engage our members during the year on different topics. So this was the first one. I'm very happy with the outcomes. I'm sure it will be very valuable to our members. And I'm announcing as well, I think it's on the next slide, Özge, that we will be starting another group to provide also a document to help schools of pharmacy, which will be on building academic capacity, because from the different areas of consultation, we got feedback that this is something that is a priority in many countries. Part of the different regions of the world, it was identified as a top priority during, for instance, our FIP unit win workshops. It's also one of the development goals of FIP, academic capacities, development goal 1. So it's definitely there. So basically we will be working on that. Lilian will be chairing this one, but I'm sure they will be participating, and we hope that a lot of FIP AIM members will also be part of the team to develop another great handbook or deliverable that will be helpful to all of our colleagues. I think I will close on this. It's like we have still 2 minutes left, and we have some announcement, I think, to make right now after that. So thank you all for being there, and don't leave right away. There'll be like a 5-minute announcement as well for FIP AIM members as a benefit in addition to what we just discussed today. So I think I'll leave Özge to conclude and then to present the next part.
Thank you, Pierre, for your leadership, and thank you all the handbook speakers / authors for taking the time and informing us. I was delighted to work on you to prepare this handbook. Also, we have a great FIP team, the events team, Mila, Marianne, thank you very much. Also the communications team, Daria, Linna, and so many others. We appreciate having you on the team. With that said, as Pierre mentioned, it's time for another membership benefit for AIM. So FIP has awarded the Curricular Solutions course with an FIP Seal Award. So what is FIP Seal? FIP Seal provides a visible signal of the alignment of a provider of programs with FIP mission to advance pharmacy worldwide. So you will hear from Karen Glenn, who is the founder director of the Curricular Solutions. The stage is yours, Karen.
Thank you, Ozgi. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to each of you, and thank you for this opportunity to share some very initial highlights of the Curricular Solutions Pharmacist for the Future programme, or PFP for short. This programme is an easily accessible online programme that will empower undergraduates and new graduates who are qualified pharmacists. And it will hopefully benefit many of your students who graduate from your universities by building their leadership identity and their skill base. What we do is we enable them to plan for their future with confidence and clarity. Next slide, please. So the Curricular Solutions Pharmacist for the Future programme is indeed about personal leadership and career management skills development. And as one of your FIP colleagues called it, it's really a game changer. As Ozgi said, we were awarded the FIP Seal last year, which we are very proud of. This programme has also been accredited through the Institute of Leadership and Management, and we already work with many FIP members from across the world, which is very exciting for us. Next slide. So the programme itself comes in 2 different versions, but each version has 5 modules of self-directed learning. The difference between the 2 versions is one has curricular tuition attached to it and one doesn't. So the first version, the PFP, is a fully self-directed programme for students, and that is offered at a special rate for AIMS members of €50 per delegate. The PFP Plus version is indeed the same self-directed modules, but in addition to that, we offer scheduled online workshops at the end of each of the 5 modules for all delegates to attend. And the offer here, as you can see, is €65. The normal price point for this for non-FIP members is €250. Next slide, please. So let's look at the content. What I'd like to say is this programme is an integrated and holistic approach to personal, social and professional development. And it's for all pharmacists at all levels. There are 5 modules, as I mentioned before, and these modules have been carefully curated so that at the end of the programme, each participant leaves with a very clear plan of what they're doing for their future. Module 1 is about the science of team working, and it helps young pharmacists understand more about their team strengths, what they can contribute in a team, and how they help to recognise other individuals' team strengths. This is the start of building leadership capability in a young pharmacist. In Module 2, we look at personal ambition, what employers look for in young employees. We look at professional networking and how that can support an individual's career. And we also consider cultural awareness as both at a national level and an organisational level. In Module 3, it's about effective communication skills, looking both at the barriers of that effective communication skills and how to make sure that those barriers are removed. We look in Module 3 as well to build the individual's personal brand profile, helping them to pull together and then to articulate their unique characteristics, the things that make them different to other young pharmacists out there. And of course, the content of what they will produce in Module 3 is very useful for them in terms of building a CV, applying for a role, or indeed for conducting themselves and preparing for an interview. In Module 4, indeed, it's all about interview skills, preparing for interview, thinking about models that we can use in order to help them to prepare for an interview, helping them to understand the skills associated with interviews and how to perform successfully at the interview itself. And then finally, in Module 5, there are 2 activities that participants will partake in. The first is they will do a work-based assignment. That work-based assignment is based on their own individual ambition or aspiration. We ask them to investigate organisations, jobs, and career prospects that they are interested in. And once they've done that, they will do the final activity of the whole programme, which is to write a 5-year career plan, which covers the experience that they need to be able to do the role that they will perform in 5 years, the additional qualifications they need, and the network that they need to build around themselves. Next slide, please. So in order to move forward, it's all very well what I say about the programme, but let's hear what some members have said, people who have just recently been through the programme. Firstly, I'd like to show a video of here of Farah from Jordan, and let's hear what she has to say.
Hello everyone, my name is Farah Haqqad. I'm a current candidate at the Pharmacists for the Future program curriculum. The program so far has been one of a kind for me. It doesn't just provide you with the theoretical information and theoretical knowledge that other courses may provide. It also walks you through exercises that raise your self-awareness, challenge you to explore areas that you weren't aware of earlier, and equip you with the knowledge and the skills to build your network within your work environment. I've learned so much in such a short period of time. It's been eye-opening for me so far, and I really can't wait to see what the next modules will bring. Thank you.
Next slide, please, Oski. So that Farah has just recently completed the programme, but I also wanted to share with you, we conducted a pilot in the UK with 14 UK schools of pharmacy involved, 28 students. And I want you to hear from Amna, who at the time was a 3rd-year student. And this was all conducted through the BPSA, the British Pharmaceutical Students Association. If you could play the video, please, Osvi.
Hi, I'm Amna, and I recently took part in the Pharmacists for the Future programme with Curriculo. So as part of the programme, I had to complete 5 learning modules, and after each module, I was able to discuss the content in my group and ask any questions that I had. So each module concentrated on different topics. So there was communication skills, team working, interview skills, networking, as well as so many other topics. But for me, the 2 most important topics was team working, where we looked at the different personalities that there are in a team and how to really maximize on your team's potential. But I think the most beneficial part of the course for me was the career planning document. So this involved quite a bit of self-reflection. And although I had a rough idea of what I wanted to achieve and where I want to be in 5 years' time, this document really helped me to identify the skills I already have and exactly what I need to do to achieve and pursue my ambition. So essentially what I now have is a checklist of all the things that I need to do, and I can refer back to that to make sure that I'm on track. So I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to take part in this course, and I just want to say a huge thank you to Karen for all the support that she's provided throughout the course and all the support she continues to provide. Thank you.
So thank you for both of those short videos and for playing them for me. So all I'd like to finish up is by saying that this is a programme that can either be incorporated into your curriculum to help with professional development skills, or indeed it can sit alongside your curriculum. What I'd love to do is take up the conversation with you afterwards, and you can contact me through aim@fip.org, and the messages will be passed on to me. I'd love to share a little bit more information and indeed share more information from the reports of those who have already been through this, and see if we can find the right fit for your organisation. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it's been a long meeting, but I very much appreciate you staying on board to hear what's been said here. Thank you, Oski.
Thank you, Karen. With that said, we are closing today's session. Thank you, colleagues, for joining us today. If you have any questions, you know where you can contact us from AIM's email address. Take care and bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.